Hello, it's Tony here again. Well, I mentioned a Kodiak panel in my last video for the ESI 500, of which it's part of the Kodiak panel. So today we're going to take a look at that Kodiak panel and see the ESI 500 in it and all the other instruments that I've been making as part of the Kodiak panel. So without further ado, I guess we ought to go look at the panel, or panels, and there they are. So a traditional left side and right side panel to fit on my monitors with a G1000 front and center. You can see the ESI 500 over there on the left hand side, and all the other switch gear and controls that you need to fly the Kodiak. So let's get into it. Let's have a look at the left-hand side panel first. So on the left-hand side panel, as I said, we've got the ESI 500 up in the left corner here. My usual nameplate tag that takes the nameplate from in the sim. So whatever nameplate you've given to the aircraft will appear there. So nice little touch, just so you know your call sign. The overspeed governor and the stall warning push button tests. I think only the stall warning is working at the moment. The overspeed governor is not currently modelled, but I'm hoping that will come at some point. A switch panel which is all fully working. They've just recently done an update on the ignition, so that now animates in the sim. That wasn't too important really, because I don't fly looking at the virtual cockpit, so I don't worry about the switches marrying up too much, as long as it's actually physically controlling the ignition. That's the main thing. But that animation also works now with that, so that's a fully functional panel there, everything working exactly as it would in the sim. Similar thing for the right hand side panel, although one or two things still outstanding with that in terms of the animations, but all the controls are working. We'll get into that in a bit. There's a park brake there in the middle, which is modelled after the real one in the aircraft. You can see there's various placards and that around the place on this panel and on the right hand side panel, just to give it that extra look and feel of a Kodiak panel with the individual separations of the panels and the panel screws there. Just adds to a nice ambience of the actual real panel. Try to match the colour up as best I can as well, without obviously going. It's quite a reasonably dark panel, the Kodiak, but it does set off for quite a nice look when they're sort of side by side. And then up in the top right hand corner here, we've got the angle of attack indicator. This normally would sit up on the glare shield. This is sort of as high as I can get it really in the panel here. And then next to, or overlaying it, is the compass that would normally be a little bit further up again, up on the central pillar. This particular compass, it's sort of during the day it's like this a luminous type yellow colour, and as it gets darker, the colour changes to like a green when it's artificially illuminated at night. So that's a nice little feature where that changes to green. We'll have a look at the panel if we get time at night, just to see it then. But all of these panels are, as in the real aircraft, these the text and the lines and that for the switch panels, and a lot of these other features are lit and backlit and controlled by these potentiometers on these on this right hand side switch panel. So very nice indeed. So let's turn the compass off. I've got a level button which isn't working currently in the sim, but I'm sure it will be, because there's been some speak about the level button operating. So that's ready to go as soon as that is fixed within the sim. And then just next to the level button is again something that I've kind of got, because it's not part of the G1000, but all the trim and the elevator and the flaps indicators should really be part, in the real aircraft anyway, of the G1000. But that's not possible currently in Microsoft Flight Sim, so I've created this elevator position indicator that just sits on the panel here at the moment, and gives a sense of where the elevator position is currently set. In the sim, it's just a line on the trim wheel, which you know, you have to keep looking down at in the virtual cockpit. So it's useful to get particularly in the Kodiak, where it is so trim dependent, for takeoff especially. It's useful to know where you've got your elevator trim set. The aileron and the rudder trims are indicated on the G1000 anyway, and so the only other thing that was missing is the flaps, and you can see the flaps position on the right hand side panel when we look at the right hand side panel with the actual flaps indicator itself. So that gives a sense of where the what the flaps are set to. With that said, let's go and have a look at that right hand side panel in a bit more detail. So on the right hand side panel, we've got of course the main G1000, the usual placarding and panels and the screws and whatnot for the main background of the panel, and then the very capable autopilot controller, which controls all of your main autopilot functions, on, off, and course. You can see there's knobs for heading, course, altitude select, etc., and your VS wheel, flight level change modes, etc., all of that working. And you know, it's a pleasure to fly. I mean, the Kodiak is a pleasure to hand fly anyway, but with the autopilot integration in this G1000 NXI, it just makes it an all-round such capable aircraft, and really one of my favourites. Below the autopilot controller, on the lower panel where the switch panels were on the left-hand side panel, is all your kind of sundry stuff, I guess. There's a couple of Hobbs timers, one for flight time, one for block time. So they display the different times there coming out of the sim. There's an ELT switch which provides an alarm if it gets activated. The oxygen controller. All of this works, by the way. The firewall fuel shutoff. So yeah, that's one of the essential startup checklist items. You make sure you've got your fuel turned on. That one will obviously, if you pull the cutoff, if there's a fire forward of the firewall, then you can pull that off to close off the valve on the firewall there to stop fuel going forward anymore. So that obviously has to be in to enable fuel for the start. There's your flaps indicator and control, as I showed before. Just above that is the TORS inhibit. So TORS inhibit button, which now functions in the latest update of the Kodiak. So that's handy if you're getting those annoying nagging Betty call-outs from the TORS system. You know, don't sync and all that. It's just a way of shutting her up when she's getting on your nerves. So that's handy to have the TORS inhibit button. And then below that is well, just a screen, it looks like, but this is actually in the Kodiak where they have the aircon controller. So this is fully modelled. This is another quite a bit of work, similar to the ESI, not quite as much work as the ESI, but quite a lot of work for the aircon controller. And so that's a fully functioning aircon controller, and you'll hear when we switch the aircraft off and what we can actually do and control with that aircon controller. And then you'll also notice a couple of other little show hide icons, the ones I tend to use, for a couple of other more pop-ups on this side of the panel. So the first one is for the overhead. I've called this the overhead one. So this is the overhead area in the Kodiak, and up there are the fuel selectors and the light control, or the lights and the light controls. I've kind of combined the lights. We'll have a look at that again in a minute. And there's also a couple of shoulder harness locks up there too, one for each pilot seat. So they're also up there on the overhead. Get rid of that. And then the other one is the circuit breaker panel. So Kodiak is probably one of the few aircraft, there are a few in the sim but not very many. Generally circuit breakers are not simulated, but on the Kodiak they are. Not 100% every single one, but pretty, I would say most of them are. Sometimes there's a little bit of you know, doubling up going on where the unit is has only got one sim var or something within the simulation, and so therefore that affects two circuit breakers, because in the real aircraft there's two. But other than that, pretty much most of the other things and circuits are operated. So what happens when you operate a circuit, or if one of them is popped, I've tried to animate it showing out, but it's a bit difficult to see. So although it does pop out, just to enable the visual of the fact that the circuit breaker is popped, I put a little red ring just around the outside there, just to show that the circuit breaker is actually in the popped out or pulled position. So that's the circuit breaker panel. Whoops, turned the wrong one off. So there we go. Let's go ahead and power her up. We'll go back to or we go to this view where we can have a little look outside and see. So we'll stick the power on. You see the angle of attack goes through its little start up to begin with there, and the Garmins are all fired up. We'll get the Avionics on as well, get the ESI 500 on. Don't think we need the GPS display on today. That was a remnant of a previous flight. You can see the battery it's getting on its way to being charged up there. I can see the other little thing that I didn't mention on the left hand side panel, in the very top left hand corner now that it's illuminated, it's easy to see, is the fuel selector warning. There's a little LED that warns you that you've got your fuel selectors turned off. So you see currently, because we have got them turned off, it is actually red. So I suggest what we do is we go and turn the fuel selectors on, and you can see the moment I turn either one of them on, the light goes out. So fuel selectors on. We'll put our seatbelt locks on as well on while we're up here. We'll come back to the lights once we've got the aircraft powered up. We'll put our fuel firewall shut off closed. We'll turn our beacon on. We'll put our auxiliary fuel pump into the arm position, or standby as they call it. We'll get the EIS strip up on the other Garmin. Could have left it on the PFD. Our parking brake is set. Okay, let's put our ignition on, and we'll go for a low motor start. Oops. And we'll introduce fuel. Up comes the NG. Keeping an eye on the ITT. Throttle quadrant wasn't initialised there, but we're okay. We've got a successful start. Turn the ignition off, start back to on. We'll turn the generator and the alternator on, get rid of some of these annunciators here on the G1000, and then we can go ahead and switch the auxiliary bus on, which will switch the aircon panel, and you'll see the aircon panel now comes up. So what we're able to do with that, let's zoom in just a little bit more, is we can turn each side on. You can hear those fans kick in now, and for the passengers. So well, I think we'll have it a little bit lower than 25. You can see the fans are on auto there, so they've gone to full on the little graphic, but you can come out of auto, and you see it's beginning to drop down as it reaches temperature. But you can turn the fan up or down manually for both the pilot or the passengers if you're not in auto mode. But we'll go back into automatic, proper climate control, and then we have control over the compressor and also the windshield demisting. And then on the second page of the aircon, you touch the little top right hand corner there, you have a choice of centigrade or Fahrenheit units if you want to select either or the other. There are some other vents that you can open and close depending on what you want to do, and there's also individual heaters in different seat positions, so you can turn those on and off, just as you can in the real aircraft and in the simulation, in fact. So it's nice to have that as an air manager instrument as well. So that's the aircon units. Well, while we're here, we'll set, I think, 10 flaps. Now we've got a bit of power on, we can have a little look at the overhead lights. So the overhead lights, each of these little circles here are represent a seat position. There's a light above each seat position. So these two at the front are obviously the pilot and co-pilot, and then these are some of the passenger positions. So when you get just the little singular ring like I've got there, that is effectively saying that the switch is in the on position. But to confirm that the light, to get the lights to come on, you need to have the cabin light switch not in the off position, so either in normal or in on. So what you'll see is if those switches were selected to be on and the cabin light switch was turned on, which is what I've just done, you'll see now the lights turn actually on, so that indicates that the light is actually physically on rather than just the switch being on, but there's no power going into that circuit. And we can turn them off again and they'll just drop back to the switch being on, but the light is actually not on because there's no power into the circuit. So the same applies, of course, if you switch one on from completely off, it will just come to fully on and would drop back to just indicating that the switch is in the on position. So that's a nice little way of controlling particularly the front two for the overhead light positions, but also the cabin lights. They're modelled in the sim, so I thought I'd include them in the overhead panel. Not that they really affect the flying of the aircraft too much. The potentiometer is the brightness of the light that shines down the quadrant. So there is a little adjustable sort of bullet type light that you can adjust the position of where it shines, but it tends to shine down on the quadrant area as its default position, and so this potentiometer will adjust the brightness of that particular light. Okay, so what else have we got to look at? Oh, well, there's the tools inhibit, so it's got a lift and throw or lift cover, and then underneath it is access to the tools inhibit. You'd obviously have to be getting a warning for that to have any function, but it does work. It's a nice little animated cover. The oxygen switch, we can switch that on. You can see we've got fully charged up bottle at the moment. We're full, but over time, as you start using the oxygen, those LEDs will eventually deplete down to fully empty, I guess, if you used it all. But obviously, you're only going to use it if you're up above oxygen altitudes. We're not going to do that today. We're just going to go for a short flight at lower altitudes, so we won't be needing the oxygen. But again, that's all working and nice. The ELT you can do a test on. So it does its little test when you switch it on and off, and there you can see the Well, the flight time, the Hobbs, the flight time's at 0. We haven't done any flying. That only it's called in the flight time for this flight, and then the block time is the total time that's been recorded up to date with this with that instrument in this panel. The angle of attack we're probably going to get to see a little bit, maybe as we're flying. You might see the LEDs. You've got a couple of little buttons just on the oh, let's make sure I turn back over onto the other side. You've got a couple of little buttons just to adjust the reference pointer marker, so wherever you want to set that to, you can with the little buttons on the side. And the LEDs will come on as the angle of attack changes. I said about the level button not currently functioning in the sim. That's a function of the sim, and we've already looked at the compass, haven't we? We'll test the stall warning as well while we're here. So the stall warning button. Stop. So the little stall warning button over on the left here. I think we're ready to go. We'll have a little short flight. You can see I've just got something plumbed in on the flight plan here. I'm just going to do a hop over to Orcas Island. I think we're currently at Friday Harbour, yeah. So we're going to do a little hop over to Orcas Island, very short, just to show the panel off in operation a little bit, and another excuse chance for me to have a play with the Kodiak. I love this aircraft. So it's a chance to have another fly. What did I want to say about the right hand side panel? Well, the right hand side panel, I guess before we go flying it might be easy because it is quite a short flight. What we can do is have a little look at the night time lighting. So let's lower that down, but I'm obviously doing this quite quickly, but as this was going gradually, slowly over time, you'd notice this appear as a very gradual thing in terms of the way that the panel dims and gets brighter. But you've got some panels here which have probably got the brightness turned up quite high at the moment. So let's turn that down a bit. So that's like the panel flood brightness, or a light that shines light on the panel. You can see it's quite dark now, and then the center one on this dimmer here, I'm controlling these with the knobs, is the Avionics brightness, and then the one on the right hand side is the backlit illumination for these backlit graphics. I showed the dimming on the ESI 500 because that can be separately controlled as well. The actual backlit lights for the right hand side as well do work, but for some reason they're not at the moment. I think I might have not set the dim channel correctly for those, but I have had them working, so that's something for me to look at before I fully finish this panel off. I'm kind of in the testing part of it now, so just trying to pick up any of these small little things that are not working and fixing, but that has been working, so I'm sure that's something simple. Nice to have shown that with all those lit up. Anyhow, you'll see the compass now is sort of a green colour. I don't know if I can show that over a period of time, but you'll see as it starts to get lighter, it kind of, there you go, just in that little certain time around as the transition changes, it just starts to change from yellow to a green illumination. You can see the panels are lighter now, and then as it gets darker over a slow period of time, I'm obviously going quite fast here, but the panel, oh, there we go, just sort of start to get dark over a slow period. But of course, you can have your instrument panel lights on a little brighter than that. You don't have to have them as dim, so you get to enjoy and see the panel. But you can adjust that to be however you want it to be, whatever suits. I'm still playing around with that a little bit, just to find the sweet spot that I like. Did we have that? What is the outside temperature? It's only 15, so I don't think we actually need the compressor on for the actual aircon. It's just the blowers at the moment, and the windshield looks cool. So I guess we should get out of here. Let's turn our parking brake off. We might need the veto heats on the way. The ice protection stuff is all working. There's our veto heats, yeah, we may or may not. It's 15 degrees C, we probably won't need them. And the inertial separator, program that to take about 20 or 30 seconds, as it does in the real aircraft and in the sim. So when you activate the inertial separator switch, about 20 seconds or so later, the engine inlet normal, which is on the annunciation here, should change to engine inlet BP for bypass. There we go, engine inlet is now bypassed. And then obviously if you take the switch back out, the moment the door comes off of that stop, it's not in bypass anymore, it's on its way back to normal, but it takes about 20-30 seconds to get back there. So that's just the simulation of the motor driving. That's how long it takes to open the physical inertial separator flap. I've also, in the sim it's not modelled, but I've also modelled the override switch, so you can activate the override switch as well, and that will do the same thing when that's in the bypass position. That will drive the door. In the real aircraft, they've got two actuators, so they've got a completely fail-safe system. Two individual circuits of actuator. I think the actuator is actually physically in the same shaft, but built into the same unit, as I understand it. There you go. So now we're in bypass with the override switch. So all of them controls are working. We've already taken our parking brake off. I'm sitting here with the parking brake off, but anyway, let's get out of here. What's this guy doing? Quite a nice little airport, this. Raleigh Harbour. Windsock's kind of across the runway, but it's pretty limp. Shouldn't have too much drama. We'll get a little bit of nose down trimming. reasonable runway here. Not that we're going to need any of its full length with this Kodiak. She loves to fly. Okay, let's put that parking brake on temporarily, and just a quick scan. We'll have our strobe on, and I think we'll have our landing lights on pulse. I think we'll leave our pitot off for the moment, don't need any anti-ice. Turn that off. Flaps 10. We will just set our altitude to a couple of thousand feet and sync up our heading, but I don't think we're probably going to use the autopilot. Maybe we will. Okay. Have our flight director on. You see the pulse lights are flashing away there now. Time to get out of here. Condition lever to fly idle. Scenery here. Bring the flaps up now. Begin our gentle turn onto course. Again, not got the usual sim set up here for the purposes of the video recording. And there we go. Nice little take off in the Kodiak. Just enjoy this little trip over to Orcas Island. Flown into here before. In X-plane as well, actually. There was a nice little scenery for this area. It's a nice part of the world. Certainly nice scenery. What I might do is we'll just stick the autopilot on briefly, but you can see how stable the Kodiak is. It's so easy to hand fly. Sometimes I'm hand flying it and I forget, oh, I haven't actually got the autopilot on. Just a case of getting it trimmed down to what we need. I'll just turn the autopilot on there quickly, so we can sit and enjoy. Let's just bring that prop back a little bit. Just messing about here a little bit really, it's such a short flight. essentially. Let's turn that autopilot off. Let's see if we can lose a bit of speed. Another first stage of flaps. And we'll have our second stage too. Flight director off. You get a chance to see the G1000 and the ESI 500 together in the panel. Very nice. I've not really been messing about with any of the settings here too much, but I explained last time that the barrows are completely independent, so they have their own barometric adjustment, and the nav features are self-contained within the ESI, so that's also a nice little addition for a standby, as are all the other main parameters. So the G1000 can essentially fail on the talking here, not concentrating on the landing. There we are, Walker's Island. Probably could have got off at that first one there if we would have used the reverser. That was just solely on the brakes. So control is always a little bit up in the air when I'm doing the videos, because I'm not on the main sim setup, but I'm working on being able to do that, so that I can actually record the videos from the main sim setup, because the main sim is not really it's still a bit of a work in progress at the moment, so I hope to be able to have a proper sim setup and be able to do a recording from that location. Certainly for any flight related ones. Obviously I was just talking about panels, it's probably easier to sit at the computer and talk about those details. What's this guy doing? He wants me there, does he? There we are. That is just a short flight and quick overview of the Kodiak 100 panel that I enjoyed making, and I enjoy it even more flying behind. It makes flying the Kodiak very enjoyable, the fact you've got all the controls and all the displays that you need to operate the aircraft. right in front of you. And as I say, in my sim setup, when I've got the yoke and the pedals and everything all there, it just makes it a pleasure, an absolute pleasure. So now I just need to think about what we're going to get onto next. I'm kind of thinking it's going to be the Baron. I already have a Baron panel for X-Plane, and I've partially converted it over to Microsoft Flight Sim, and that's analog panel. So I can fly the Baron with analog gauges. Probably won't take too much work to get that nutted out, and then I'll probably do the Microsoft Flight Sim version of the Baron with the G1000, which will take a little bit more work, but not that much extra, I wouldn't have thought, after that. And then, yeah, probably looking for a new project after that. Maybe the Bonanza, maybe might do the similar conversion thing for the Bonanza, because again I have a Bonanza panel. So I might convert, well I will at some point, it's just whether I do it next, over to Microsoft Flight Sim. And then, yeah, thinking possibly I might pick up the Cessna 414 and have a look at that. Maybe, who knows? I'm still thinking what panel. I kind of have got a strategy in terms of a selection of different aeroplanes, from your basic 152 up to maybe the Longitude or something, in terms of a range of all the different types of aircraft that you'd have in there. So some twins, some turboprops, turboed, retractable gear, fixed gear, just a real cross section of different aircraft that you would find within the space between those. So I've got a bit of something of everything in there, and panels for all of them, which obviously will take a bit of work, but I'm getting there with them. I've shown quite a few of these now. You can see I've got quite a few panels, and I'm able to go and fly aircraft within X-Plane and Microsoft Flight Sim with completed panels. I always find little bits here and there as each time I fly them, not always, but sometimes you find a little thing that you didn't realise before, or maybe in a lot of cases something in the sim changed from last time you changed it, and so you have to go in and make a small tweak here and there just to fix things up. But generally that's just a little bit of housekeeping, and the panels continue to work and operate really nicely. So every time you add a new one, it's always nice that it gives you another aeroplane that you feel like you want to go and fly, rather than not having any controls. Because if I can go and try and fly an aeroplane now, like when I first get it or something, and I haven't got any instruments or panels for it, I don't enjoy the experience as much, because I haven't got my full panels all set up, and it just doesn't make flying as easy and as enjoyable. But I guess if you're watching this video, you probably feel similar to that, in that you like your cockpit in and around you, and you save the sim for looking out the front and looking out the windows to see where your orientation is. And of course, if it's really bad weather, you can be doing a bit of IFR, doing the same. It's nothing like quite popping out of the clouds, just a few hundred feet above the runway, all lined up on an ILS approach. Very enjoyable. Right, well, I guess that's the end of the Kodiak video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully I've still got some other panels that I don't think I've shown yet, that I've got some ideas for some videos, and maybe we'll get back into the tutorials of some sort. Just need to explore and think about what you guys want to see from the tutorials perspective, and we'll get into doing some more tutorials as well at some point. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, if you like this video, to like and subscribe. Thanks again for watching. See you again soon.